Hey, everyone. Welcome to Money, Sex, and God. I'm here with Mikaal Bates. I'm super excited. I'm going to tag you in the video, so that'll be easy.
Tag me in the video.
Yeah. And yeah, just super excited to have him on. I'm going to tell you about him in a second once we get all our techie stuff figured out. I think we figured it out.
Do I push start?
Just play. You can if you want. You don't have to. All right.
But it's
so good. It's good. It's so good. It's so good.
Right.
Look, people are coming on. Hi.
Hello.
All right. So I want to introduce this man, though I don't know if I'll be able to do it justice, so I'll probably let him do a bit of the introduction as well. Hi, Apollo. So when I first met Mikaal, I'm not going to tell them where we met. But when I first met Mikaal, for me and the way that I play in the world and the way that I play this game is that everything is energy. Like everything is energy, and Mikaal's energy is brilliant. Like it's actually wordless. I can't really put words to it. So beyond the humanness of who he is, his energy just sitting with him and being with him is truly incredible and magical. So that's really why I wanted to bring you on, so that they could all get a taste of you. And if you guys can feel him, let me know, because I feel it. He's like a grounding rod for me. So can you give us a little bit of intro about who you are and your mission in the world, and maybe even a little, I don't know much of your backstory, maybe even a little backstory of how this became so strong for you.
Yeah, I can get into that. And I'm a bit of a storyteller, so I'll try not to get too wound up in it. But my mission in the world is the evolution of masculine consciousness, integrity, and sensitivity across the planet in our lifetime. Small potatoes. I like to, just bite off little pieces. And go from there.
Yeah, no big deal.
Yeah.
It's no big deal. No mission.
No mission at all.
Right.
I am, my story, I don't know if it's unique, but it's sort of several decades kind of spent not knowing what I'm supposed to do in the world, not knowing, after having been very clear as a young person, and then when those things sort of dissolved, just sort of looking at the world and not seeing my place. I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a sanitation worker, I'm not a chef. I didn't see anything that really leapt out and got me. And at first it was fine. I traveled, I went to acting school, I did a number of things that were just sort of wonderful. But then as the years kind of crept by, I think a lot of those societal pressures that plague, I'll just speak about men since I identify that way and speaking from my own experience, but I think that plague a lot of men as you get older. I know once I hit 30, it was sort of like, oh, well, I'm supposed to have figured this out by now. And then I hit 35 and it was like, oh my, I'm really supposed to have figured this out by now. And it was just sort of this mounting existential crisis that really culminated when I was 35. There was this sort of very magical, synchronistic experience that happened, which did not feel that way at the time. Breaking my finger and sort of losing my connection to the physical world around me, not being able to practice or do much of anything. But it brought me to a book called Iron John by Robert Bly, which is to this day the most important book I've ever read. It's a book about men. It's Iron John is a pre-Christian fairy tale that the Grimm brothers actually, it's in their collection, but it's supposedly around 2,000 to 3,000 years old, and it's an allegory for going from boyhood to manhood, and realizing that even though I had amazing parents and very much got a lot of things there that I think a lot of people don't get in our society, that there were still things that were missing. There were still things that I still felt very much like a kid inside, even being in this man's body. And I'm a very tall human, and I've been 6'5" since I was 14.
Wow.
So being still literally a kind of a child in a man's body, and being in a society that doesn't quite have the rituals or rites of passage that are designed to bring us into adulthood in a very healthy way. Joseph Campbell, who's another one of my heroes and someone I've studied extensively, studied the mythologies of the world and the cultures of the world, and discovered that almost every single one that we've ever studied has some type of adolescent rite of passage, specifically for boys to become men. He's this whole idea that girls become women. There's still the red tent traditions and so many rites of passage for girls too that are beautiful. And I have some friends whose parents, whose mothers actually did that for them, which is such a wonderful thing to celebrate the onset of the menstrual cycle and everything. But that it's the thing that happens to women. They don't have to do anything. You just kind of wait and it happens.
Actually,
and it happens
the less we do, the better.
Right.
Absolutely. It's like,
Absolutely.
do nothing. Yeah.
One of my favorite phrases of Campbell's is that, women are the vehicles of life, and men are the servants of life. And so the point, the real thing for me too is not subservient, but truly to be in service is the true joy of men in that sense. And obviously this is a generalization and not everyone feels that way. But I know in speaking to my own father, as he's gotten older, his focus has become more and more on service and actually how to be of service in the world. So for a lot of us men these days, we don't have anything in our life that the doing of that thing fulfills us with a state of fulfillment. Yeah. We don't have bison to hunt. We don't have borders or boundaries to protect. That the doing of that thing literally gives us the embodied, visceral sensation of my place in the world. Right. So many of us are lost in that sense of like we work these jobs that are pushing papers for people we don't know or things that we don't really care about. So there's this real absence in.
Do you know that I was just reading a post yesterday from Chris Bale, who does masculinity work, and a very similar speak to what you're talking about, and he was talking about this, and he said that basically what's happening is men are becoming spaghetti because they're just like, they don't know where to go, like there isn't that like purposeful, or they'll maybe put it on a woman and that's not quite exactly what the man needs, and I just find it so fascinating because it's so different from my experience in my feminine body, right? Like I really don't need any of that. Like I can kind of just like fall back and like let the world take me. And so it's so interesting to hear just this different perspective. And so just to get back to your story, when you turned 35, you had this thing with, you broke a finger, right? And then it was like chaos and annihilation of self.
Yeah, it was really trippy because I was literally going in for surgery on my finger, on this finger here. And I was reading Iron John, and there's a passage in the book where he's literally talking about the story is releasing the wild man from the cage, and it's sort of the notion of the ancient man, the true nature of our wild self that's unbound, that's free in love and sex and play and power, and is expressive and vulnerable. It's the entire spectrum of the masculine experience is sort of what it speaks to. So there's nothing outside of that experience. Homosexuality is contained in that experience. Right. Anything is contained in that experience. It's not a prescriptive thing. It's a thing that sort of holds all of the possibilities. I would imagine even being in a woman's body, and I think we'll talk about that a little bit more in the conversation, where my work has led me currently, and with the teachers that I work with in LA who are very much interested in transcending a bit of the masculine feminine talk, using terms like alpha and omega to describe those energetics so that we don't get lost in the gender question. So
I get a bit annoyed. Right. We were talking before we got on live, and I was like, I'm so annoyed by masculine feminine conversation because it just keeps looping around. Right? And so if we allow ourselves to talk about it, to transcend it, right, there's more freedom for us. So I'm glad that you brought that up.
Well, my goal with my men's work and the goal with the tantric polarity work that I do is to really identify and train people like you would in a gym towards energetic agility, which is being able to wield both ends of the pole. So whether you want to call it masculine, feminine, alpha, omega, black, white, light, dark. We live in this dualistic realm, whether you're looking at it from the Buddhist perspective, a Judeo-Christian perspective, or just
or the illusion.
I'm in the world.
The illusion of duality.
Absolutely. Absolutely, right. That it's we are descended from the transcendent, from the one. We split into two. Right. And this is the
To
way
play with it.
we learn
Hey.
who we are. Yeah. But really getting to, yeah, absolutely. And remembering it's about play.
It's about play.
And not taking ourselves so bloody seriously all the time.
No. And what I love about, I'm veering because that's what the feminine does. She doesn't stay focused at all. So Michael, you can totally
Maybe
grab me and bring me back. But I've been playing with this polarity piece, and so I won't tell them how we met, but I will tell them that what I said the night that we met is I said, I don't want to do anything. I don't want to lift a finger. Mm-hmm. I just want to receive. I was fully feeling like I wanted to be in that yin totally. And that's kind of how I live my life now. I really like to be in that space from being in the yang energy for such a long time. Mm. And Michael has a way of just tapping into the opposite polarity very quickly, so that I felt safe and I felt grounded and I felt like that letting go that I was desiring so much was so easily available to me. And I think what you're saying, that energetic agility, a lot of people can't play there. Like they'll just watch me wanting to fall into that, going, I don't know, how do I do that? What do I do? Right. So how do you cultivate? How did you land that in your body? Honestly, I landed it through studying the work of a man by the name of David Data. And I know he's a bit of a controversial figure. And I like him. I like him too. And I myself had some controversy with him. Yeah. And I'm no longer working with him personally, but have been working with my teachers, Justin Patrick Pierce and London Angel Winters in LA, who were essentially his two proteges, ran his programming for 8 years, and they've branched off and are doing their own work. And it's the best of the best. Honestly, it is so in integrity, the level of the container that they hold. So I had gone through my own rituals, rites of passage. My first foray into this work was creating a male rite of passage at Burning Man in the summer of 2016. Terrified, I literally, it was like a death process going through that. Then I found MKP, Mankind Project, which is very much in that sort of 80s, 90s men's work, very much in the ritual, the indigenous practices, really beautiful stuff. But what I felt it was lacking, the data work brought in, which was this, I showed up at a men's retreat, one of Data's men's retreats in the mountains of North Carolina with 95 men. And I was literally high and in a meditative state for 3 days because of the level of the container that these men, not just Data, but his assistants, and Justin being one of his assistants, were holding. Where it was just, it's this idea that, and again, it's all about play. It's all about learning. It's not that serious. He seems serious, but it's not that serious. It's not that serious. The idea, it's like anything. It's like if you're a musician and you need to practice your scales, you need to practice your scales so that you can get into a concert and not be playing scales. You're just flowing. Right. So to be able to develop the qualities and the understanding that there is an extreme on this side and there is an extreme on this side, call it whatever you want. Right. Most of life lives in the middle, that's why we're here. The best way I've found to learn how to live in the middle, wherever you naturally reside, is to play in the extremes. Like really fully. So really, what does hyper masculine feel like? Yeah. And that it's not necessarily, what I love about this work is that I can sit here and tell you what that is. I can tell you what my experience of that is, but someone else is going to have a very different experience. So a lot of what we do are these sort of calibrational feedback loops where we'll bring men up and we'll ask the group, which of these 3 men do you trust more? Which of these 3 men would you leave your children alone with for the weekend? Knowing that you don't know anything about them. Right. Knowing that the one that you seems like the most trustable might be the least trustable. But that there is actually an energetic that the way we stand, the way our posture specifically for the masculine, and this can be the masculine in women. So again, we're getting into that what's what here. But so alpha and omega, I'll sort of borrow those terms from my teachers. Yeah. What is it like to be a mountain? Versus a river. Those are sort of two natural metaphors that I think work really well for describing the masculine side of things and the feminine side of things. So a mountain is this sort of steady, deep, and even the shape of it, the triangle. Yeah, there's a base. There's a base. there's steady, grounded. I'm not going anywhere. I'm here. It comes up into the angle, so there's sort of the penetrative trajectory of direction and directionality. There's something that is coming up for me that, because I don't know how many people watching kind of know my history of how I became kind of ridiculously feminine at this point where like nothing matters and I don't have a brain and I don't think very often.
It's all that oxytocin.
It's so good. Just all the cosmic orgasms, one after another.
So good.
So I was with only women for 15 years in sex and in love. And what that did was I played in the masculine more often than not. Like I had a really strong hypermasculine energy. I can do it really well. And then from being a pro-dom, professional dominatrix work is yang energy. It's that grounded, you're holding the scene, you're in it, right? You're the container, right? So I feel like that's such a gift to be able to live fully in that masculine, and then to be able for me to fall back now into feminine, where when I'm in the presence of someone who's living in that polarity, like that extreme polarity, I can go, yes, that's what I felt like. I know that feeling. I know exactly what it's like. And in that, it helps me honor the feminine better.
Absolutely.
Because I know what it's like to be in the masculine energy and to want to see the feminine writhe and birth and live and scream and like I know that feeling. And I think a lot of women, female-bodied people are not. They're like, really? I really am supposed to just lie there? And I'm like, yeah, and feel. Like that's what we're penetrating you to do, right? That's what's desired. I don't know. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but my experience as a lesbian felt like that. as a pseudo former lesbian felt like that. It was like, give me the juice, give me the river.
Yeah. And I think individuals like yourself who've had the opportunity or who have the attraction to play in those more bisexual realms really understand it, I think, better than a lot of cisgendered people, because you have it from an embodied place. And that, again, for me, is the core of any work that I'm doing, or honestly any work that anyone's doing. If it's not, we can talk about it all day. We can write all the books and read all the books, but until you're bringing it to your body. So those, for me, like the Omega practice of 5 rhythms, of being able to flow and know where that is. It's like, men need to do that. Everyone needs to do that. But that's a point of medicine where if you're super hard, it's like thinking of it more as, or less like a problem and more like, oh, well, you just have a lot of alpha. If you're sort of very, like this, that might be the medicine that you need. And if you're kind of waffly and don't quite know where you are, silent practice, stillness practice, breathwork practice might be the balm to that sort of.
I mean, it's less like this. We're not playing anymore in this realm of like good, bad, right, wrong, do this, don't do this. Now we get to play more in like, that feels like this feels like that, right? And I've been having fun with this in my self-pleasure practice, which is all I think about all day long. And recently it's been, I'll feel pain in my body, and rather than identifying it as a pain piece, I look to, oh, that's just different energy.
Absolutely.
Like that's just a different, like, oh, the energy's doing this right there, and it's doing this up there, and now let me see what I can do with that energy. How can I play with that energy? Right. Which is sex, really. Also, it's good sex.
And that's the dance, and that's what sex can become once we've done the work to sort of unpack all of the kinks that are our society and however you were raised, whatever, again, the Judeo-Christian construct, or even for me, it was like getting caught up in. I grew up, my father was a yoga teacher, so I grew up with Yogananda's lineage and Self-Realization Fellowship, and it was the same kind of thing. Well, if you're feeling the sex drive, meditate, work out. Like, it was another version of the suppression and oppression of that. So I grew up thinking that I needed to not ejaculate, I needed to, not be attracted to the women I was attracted to in a very unique way. So there's a lot of things that kind of come in there, but back to what you were saying about your sort of lesbian experiences, it's like this work is so beautiful because, again, when you take away right and wrong, when you take away masculine and feminine, it needs to look this way.
Right. Even straight and gay. Get rid of that.
But it's like what you start to be able to see is that even in a gay or homosexual relationship, one of the two people will take the more dominant role and one will take the more submissive role. That we talk about the difference between resonance and polarity. So resonance being like we can be friends, like we're raising the kids together, like it doesn't create fuck energy.
Right.
But in order to create fuck energy, you do kind of need two opposites. And if you don't believe me, test it out. I mean, that's the thing.
Well, there's a thing called lesbian bed death, which is a real thing. Like when lesbians enter into relationship, they have the kid, the sex dies. And it happens in a lot, I mean, honestly, a lot of my couples that I work with too, that the kids come up and then we, right? So, but what's interesting about same-sex couples is that I watch more of the polarity dance. There's more of a willingness in those relationships, I've noticed, to go, oh, she's in her feminine, let me find my masculine right now, and then let's flip-flop, right? Whereas in cis hetero relationships, there's more of a, I want to be in my feminine all day long, all the time, right? And then there's resentment when I have to stand up into my masculine. I wonder if you could speak on that, because this is like kind of edgy.
Yes, say a little more about it.
Well, just kind of like, where am I going with it? Where am I going? Where's my river flowing? The river's flowing to this space of how do we create polarity when the masculine needs to go into feminine, coming from the feminine side. So like a female-bodied, feminine-embodied person, their man needs to fall into feminine, and they don't want to hold it.
That's a tricky point, and you know, most people I don't think are existing on the level of understanding the nature of the dynamics of relationship. You know, I've heard it said that the third dimension that we sort of live in is the dimension of relationship. That's what this whole thing is all about. That's why we're here. And if you kind of start to look at your life, it's all about in relationship to this cup, in relationship to this computer, in relationship to this woman, and all the different ways that affects me. So,
well, to remind each other who we are, right?
Right.
Point of all the things.
And as we were speaking to exactly in the beginning, we're in this place, and this is why men's work is sort of my bread and butter, and it came and got me. So it wasn't like I really had a choice, which is what's so great about it. But going back to Robert Bly, to Robert Moore, to these guys that were sort of identifying this missing piece, and that a lot of them think it sort of started in the Industrial Revolution, where the men were first pulled out of the home, where they went to mines, they went outside to factories, they left the home, they left the agrarian sort of centralized family unit, the familial unit of mother, father, children, and suddenly the father is no longer present, and it's just the mother that the children are getting. Both the female and male-bodied children are just receiving sort of an extremity of femininity. And the man is sort of off and working, and when he's coming home, he's not necessarily happy about what he's been doing. So that's the energy that the kids are kind of getting. But really the absence of the adolescent rites of passage, I mean, Campbell and Bly, and I really feel that way myself, that I really believe that the patriarchy, and I mean that in the negative sense of what is the twisted shadow masculine that is in the world right now, is there largely because of the absence of these adolescent rites of passage in our society. Because whereas girls become women because the men sees happens to them, boys can't become men. It has to be done to them. It has to be done to them by ritual elders in a sacred space. And we've lost that understanding of that. We've lost the connection with the male mentor and the connection with the natural world. So we have all these basically man children walking around in the world that don't know what to do, and so we're looking to our women. We're looking to our women to help us, because we've lost consciousness in the way that
so many times me and so many powerful women that I work with say to me, I am so tired of men saying help me. I get that literally. I could count how often I get help me. It's the pardon my French, well, I'll just say it's the challenge of this work. What were you gonna say?
I was gonna curse, but we're on Facebook Live.
But it's national TV. I have no idea.
I don't know. Well, that's the thing. So in the tantric tradition, the masculine represents consciousness, and when the masculine goes into its shadow, it seeps back into unconsciousness. And the problem with unconsciousness is it's not aware that it's conscious. or it's not
Not
aware that
that's
it's unconscious.
You don't know what you don't know.
Right. It would be conscious if it could be conscious, but it can't because it's unconscious. So what it actually needs is the feminine's wake-up call.
Yeah.
That the wake-up call that the feminine can learn. And what I try to teach the women that I work with is that, yeah, it sucks and you don't want to have to be waking up your dude all the time, but this is where the art comes in. You can communicate, and this is a whole other conversation, but there are different ways to communicate. There's an alpha and an omega way to communicate, and telling your man what to do is you basically stepping an alpha.
Well, right, then you have to start doing women, right? And then we get resentful.
Absolutely.
I don't want to have to do that because that would then make me responsible and have to do things. So
Right.
I just kind of incite and invite.
Exactly. And what my teachers have taught me, and what I've seen, which is so amazing, is empowering the feminine because the nature of the omega energetic in her, or his, mind you, sort of center is the real-time congruence of your emotional line.
Yeah.
So whatever you are feeling in that moment
Feel
is
it.
correct.
Right.
You're not too much, you're not enough. And the shadow masculine will try to fix that.
Exactly.
Because he sees a problem. You're crying, he sees why you're crying. You obviously don't want to be crying. Let me try to fix that.
Right.
Where that's actually not true
Right.
for the feminine experience.
And for me, and what I teach a lot of my women with is like, what if we can get to the place where our orgasm and our crying feels the same?
Oof.
Which is what for me, I cry an orgasm all the
Absolutely.
time. Like I cry gasm, like I'm
And I think a lot of
that.
women and men think there's something wrong or bad if that comes up, but that very much is a natural part of, again, getting back to what
sex
we were
with an
talking
awakened
about.
woman is okay, right? That's sex with an awakened woman. Like let me feel my shit
Right.
fully, let it out, move it through, and the man goes, okay, and he waits.
Well, and it's not just that he waits.
What are you
it's that
doing? I don't know what you're doing.
and we're jumping around. This is great, but that's the thing. It's like there's all the talk about holding space. I'm holding space. I'm going to hold space for you. Like what does that mean, right?
Please enlighten us.
Well, we talk a lot about that and what it. I mean, the beauty of it is that if I think I'm holding space, that's great. How is she feeling? If she's feeling held, I'm holding space.
Boom.
That's kind of what it means.
Yeah.
And what it is.
I just exhaled. Women watching, did you guys just exhale when he said that? Because fuck, that feels really good.
So for the man or the one holding the alpha pole, it's about releasing the need for anything to change, for anything about her. I don't need her to stop crying. I don't need her to start crying. I don't need her to come. I don't need her to not come. I just need her to be who she truly is right now in this moment. And if I'm sussing that, if I'm hunting that, if I'm calling that wild man out to hunt her, her truth, the truth of who she is,
I like this.
then already my body is starting to change. Already I'm starting to feel my base. I'm starting to feel the muscles on my body tense for that hunt.
Can you
And
see
be
what my
able
body
to-
is doing too? Like those of you watching, type in what you see me doing, because holy hell.
Yeah. What my teachers talk about and what the tantric tradition is about is if you're engaged in sex or if you're engaged in partnership or even in an exercise, for whoever's playing the omega body, your attention is all on you. Your attention is all on your sensation, your experience, and what you're feeling in real time, and doing whatever you can to get those obstacles out of the way that prevent you from being honest. And we're talking about a whole society of conditioning in your whole life. So I'm not saying this like it's not a big freaking deal, because most female-bodied people have been suppressed all of their lives.
And it can be easy.
And it can, because it goes in a second.
It can just like that.
So, absolutely. So once you're able to sort of be in that place, then I can start to just, because again, if her attention is all on her, the male or the alpha practicing partner puts all of his attention on her also. So both of our attention is tracking her.
Right.
And then it's about, again, what's the gift that I'm bringing as the alpha playing partner? What's the gift that I can bring with my posture? So if she's a river, and we're just playing, right? If she's playing river and I'm playing mountain, what's a mountain look like in his body? And it's not about pushing, because again, you'll want to. I'm a mountain, baby. Look, I'm a mountain.
No,
feel
don't
my
do
mountain.
that.
It's more of it's a resting back. It's a resting back and down.
And you have this trust in yourself that you're going to be able to hold that. I get this a lot. This recently from a man and a couple that I'm working with, where he emailed me and was like, I actually don't know if I can hold this.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, like, because we awakened her. So now she's like the screaming, like gyrating, like squirting everywhere woman. And he's like, I don't know, what do I do? Yeah. And I, not just hold space, there's more. There's more, but there's also, for those of you who associate with alpha and with the masculine, there's, for me and so many of the men that I do this work with have said this, so I feel comfortable saying that there is a commonality in this. There's this time in the future where you've got everything together. You got the house, you got the kids, you got the job, and you're just sitting back and everything is done. Uh-huh. And that doesn't exist. But there's something in the masculine that wants things to just be done. And what if I told you right now, for that man who asked that question, that when she's in this thing and there's all this stuff and it's like, oh God, how do I handle this? What if you didn't have to do anything? Right. Yeah. What if you're already done? Yeah. What if just being present was all you actually needed to do? And that's the exact same thing for women as well, right? Mm-hmm. Here's where we're getting a truth layer. Here's where masculine and feminine are actually dissolving. Right. Because once we get to the place, which is the beauty, I've tingled, we get to the place where both people are done and they're just being and there's actually nothing left, right? Mm-hmm. Then we're good. There's nothing else to do. But we're just climbing along the ladder on the way to get there. Well, because get there. You don't have to get there. When in that moment we stepped into being. So for those of you who had that experience, whether on psychedelics, in sex, meditation, whatever it is, you slide into that liminal space of where time and space kind of end, and you step into a beingness place. Mm-hmm. The whole point of meditation and the meditation that I teach and lead and that we do through Alpha Tribe and some of the organizations that I'm involved with is about for the masculine pole, for the alpha, again, in women or men, can you make yourself empty? Mm-hmm. Can you actually align with the notion that you're already done, that everything is done? Because we are, and the essence of us is already and come to that space of beingness, because from that place, doing naturally flows. Right, right. So we think, oh, I can't meditate, I've got all the stuff to do, I need to do, but that's coming from here, it's coming from our mind trying to dictate and problem solve the world, instead of recognizing that if we come to a place of stillness, if we come to a place of silence, if we come to a place of rest, and it can be terrifying because we spend our whole lives going, especially in New York City, to actually be able to arrive at a place of the doing will start to flow from there. And even taking it from this body, right? My body, the way that I get to that place is through all that feeling, right? So to know, wow, I'm feeling something in my throat. What am I feeling? Let me be there. Let me breathe into it. Let me not be afraid of it. Let me just unleash it and show up so fully in that. It's when I watch a woman start to get turned on, what I'm watching, which I love, and when I start to get turned on, what I'm watching is all the parts of myself just falling away, right? It's like that are not fully me. And sex does that. That sexual energy just kind of like, right? And then we get to this place of nothing after all of that. And so maybe the whole point of fucking polarity, I finally like polarity now, because maybe the whole point we did it, is just to get to a place of like, nothing, which is kind of the whole point of life, right? Remember this exact moment and be exactly here. I mean, the Buddhists literally speak of that we are the one, we are the transcendent, we've descended into the realm of opposites, so that we can remember that we're one. They all say the same thing. And it doesn't matter how we get there, right? Right.
Well, it's the joy of it. That
Right.
There's so
many different
ways to
ways.
get there.
Sex is a fun way. That's what I do. But there's a whole lot
It's
of
a
ways.
really great way.
It is a really fun way. I like that I picked that way in this incarnate.
Me too.
Genevieve.
I'm really glad you did too.
She's happy.
And I'm really, honestly, you know, I'm in awe of you, Genevieve, and the work that you do. And there are a few women that I know in my life and in this world that I'm just in awe of, truly, to be bringing forward this quality of the sexualized, activated feminine that has been banished from this world for so long. Literally burned at stakes and drowned and all the things. And I think it's because that the sexualized, activated feminine is irresistible.
Yes.
It literally is irresistible. It will pull you from your bullshit to the truth like nothing else.
Right.
And that can be terrifying.
Right.
And that can be something that requires oppressing if you have something installed in the works that is not quite in line with the ultimate nature of the universe, that is love unconditional.
Right. Yeah, we throw the awakened feminine throws patriarchy off of its rocker. Right. And we
Throws
do
everything
it.
off
We
its
right
rocker.
everything
Or onto its rocker.
Or on right. And we don't.
Yeah.
And it. You know, I get this a lot where men or the masculine will say to me, I don't know why I'm attracted to you. Like, I can't give you like a logical, but I can't stop and I can't look away and I don't know how to do anything else. And it's like, yeah, like good. So you're answering the call and you're standing up to that.
Yeah, and that brings us into the consent piece. And that brings us into where we are right now with men and women in post Me Too, because what is being asked of,
I love all the edges we're hitting.
what is being asked of, what I feel is being asked of women to men is, it's not to shut up, sit down, just let us drive, just let women, the future is only feminine, the future is only female. I don't think that's what's actually being asked. I think what's being asked of is more consciousness.
Yes.
Wake up.
Right. Stop being spaghetti.
That you, if a man can learn to develop sensitivity, if anyone can learn to develop sensitivity, but the development of sensitivity is what I feel like is being asked of men right now.
Attunement. Right?
Attunement to the fact that you have an effect on the world around you and the people around you.
Right.
And when you come into a space with, hey baby, ba ba ba, you're affecting something. You step into a subway car, and that's the beauty. You have an opportunity to step onto a subway car in New York City and be medicine just by the way you breathe. Or you can be a part of the problem. And it's really hard to swim upstream. It's really hard when the overarching milieu of the place that you're in is at a certain level, and you're trying to be up here. And I think that's what a lot of us are experiencing. It's hard to be open in this life because the median energetic of this place right now is kind of it's
tight.
It's tight. It's ascending, but it's getting into this stuff.
Yeah.
So what are we doing for self-care? What are we doing to sort of replenish and revitalize and revisit?
Yeah, there's a teaching point that I want to say that just, those of you that have been watching for a while, have been watching Michael and I for a bit, I want you to just pick up on how these polarities are playing out just in our interaction, right? Just watching how my feminine, when I'm in, which is how I like to be around Michael because he gets to play in that hyper masculine, which I really like. When I'm in my feminine space, I don't have to make him wrong. I don't have to say, try to make myself smarter. I don't have to tell him how to maneuver anything. I can literally just let him do his thing and then trust it. I don't know if you guys are seeing that, but what I'm doing is, rather than hearing so much of I'm hearing your words, but the feminine space is not one of analysis, right? And it's really interesting watching the masculine and feminine interact, because I would actually, the way I am fed by you is by just feeling you in your energy. And so I'm just letting his words hit me and I'm feeling it, right? I don't have to do anything with them. And then when I feel like I want to respond, then I have a thing, and then he can do it, he can catch it if he wants to, right? But so often what I see is, especially alpha women, right, which I'm a recovering alpha woman. I think I'm still an alpha woman.
Mm-hmm.
But I play Omega in my relationships and in what I teach.
And it's important to note that there's nothing wrong with that.
There's nothing, yeah. I mean, I'm probably like 60-40, maybe 50-50.
Mm-hmm.
And people are saying they feel you all the way in Denmark.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember what my thought was. Do you remember what
Talking
I was
about
saying?
alpha women.
Oh yeah,
Your experience
there's a common thing that happens where we will then try to over alpha him, right? We will then try to like say, well, I'm going to be even smarter than you, and here's where I'm going to like stand up for myself, and here's where I'm going to like fight. We don't want to fight. I'm not even going to say like they don't want us to fight back. Like we don't want to fight. The true essence of the feminine body does not want to fight. That's not what we want. And so the more that we can just let his words and his being penetrate us, right? The more fulfilled and nourished we're going to get. And to me, that's really the only purpose of any interaction, is to fill myself up, right? To fulfill and get nourished by it, and vice versa. So
yeah,
I went all over the place. You can take what you want with that one.
It's beautiful.
I just wanted to point it out so that they could watch it, you know, and they could kind of, yeah, there's someone said we want to let go in love. That's exactly
Absolutely.
right. The female, who did I hear this from? Fuck, I can't remember. One of my mentors said, the feminine wants to love. The core wound of the feminine is that we can't love fully, and we want to love fully, and we want to feel love, and like that's our thing. And I know that for me, like whenever I have a core wound thing come up, it's usually like, I'm not lovable, or like, why can't you let me love you? And it's that. The core wound masculine is freedom, right? Let me be free. And so we're doing this thing where we're like, love me, love me, love me. And there's like, let me be free, bitch, let me be free, right? And it's this interaction.
Yeah.
When we can instead look at, oh, he's doing his freedom dance.
Yeah.
And she's doing her love dance.
And you see it play out in unconscious relationships.
Yes.
We even have it in our culture, like retreating to the man cave.
Yeah.
And it's like when he feels triggered, he wants to pull away.
Yeah.
And when she feels triggered, she wants to pursue, which creates this. So it's like, one of my teachers always says it just takes one of you to be willing to stop that.
One person, 100%.
And to understand that we always attract our reciprocal.
Yeah.
Energetically, whatever we need to work on, we're gonna attract that, and we're gonna bring that into our sphere. Yeah. And it might be to prepare us for the next part, or the next part.
And we don't know.
But
none of it really means anything, guys.
Everything means nothing, and everything means everything. And I think that's the paradox. That's so the paradox of life, and that's the indeterminate dyad of Plato, and that's the whole.
We got nothing.
We're not
even
we
here.
can drop down that.
There's actually no teaching.
I want to get back to what you're saying though about the alpha female, because I think this is such an important thing, and I know a lot of our friends here in New York. I mean, I don't know that there's a more alpha female city in the sense of just the. And what I mean when I say that is. Going back to what we were talking about with the absence of initiated men coming into the world, with the absence of patriarchy in a good way, and the absence of the masculine in integrity, women have had to take on that role. And women have had to step into that because men haven't been doing it, largely because we don't know how, because that connective tissue between the generations was broken at some place, whether that was through colonialism, whatever it was.
It's confusing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we're in a beautiful place right now where the world is open to the degree that women are now free enough to be able to step into roles of leadership, to own businesses, to run things. And women that have been, it's been 3,000, 5,000, depending on which culture you're looking at, years of oppression, of basically being chattel and property. And now suddenly, in the matter of a few generations, we really have come a long way, and we have a lot farther to go, obviously, but have been able to step into these roles where now we're leading. And it's a really interesting thing, because to be an alpha is beautiful. Everyone can be an alpha. Some people would say that being a parent, whether you're a mother or a father, is being an alpha.
I would say, as a parent, yes, if you're doing it without a community. This second I can fall into omega, it's when I'm communal parenting.
Absolutely.
If I'm doing the fucked up
I love that
alpha
so
way,
much.
right? Like that, yeah.
I love that. Because for me, tribe and community is why
That's
I'm
it.
in this work, is
Right.
why I'm doing this work, to
Right.
remind all of us that what happens when you get other people around you. And specifically for little kids, because if you have more than one version of woman around you,
Yes.
you get to draw on, oh, that's possible, that's possible, that's possible. If you just have one,
Yeah.
whatever her issues are going to become your issues. They just have to,
Yeah.
because that's your only model for goddess. That's your only model for woman.
Yeah.
So to be able to draw that in, but back to the alpha female thing, it's like we were talking about potentially doing a workshop. And
Here we go. I guess we're doing it. Look, he just said it.
well, there's potential. I'd be interested to see what people have to say about it, or what if there's
let
interest
us know
in it.
if you want one.
But it's about some of the work that I do that I enjoy the most is working with professional female doms to dom them. So what does that look like? Because again, to be able to be in the world in alpha, if your natural essence is omega, if your natural essence is orientated towards love and relationship, you can be in the world, you can be in alpha, but it's when you're always in alpha, when you start to calcify into alpha. And you can start to see it on the features of men or women who have spent time in the pole that isn't necessarily their home base, but they've had to in order to survive, or whether it's been real or imagined, they'll start to calcify into that space. And so, again, this agility that we're talking about is, for me, the human of the future is someone who understands their nature, can have their own expression, or I identify as this, that, or the other, but knows the language of both extremes and is able to play in the middle. And they've spent the time to work through the conditioning, because so many of us, we are who we are because mom said you can do this or you can do that. And dad said you can do this or you can do that, or teacher said this or that. And so we think we're these people, but what we really are is a stack of conditions that have been laid on top of us. So what starts to happen when you start to engage in this type of work, spiritual development work, sacred sexuality work, is you start tapping onto the place where this conditioning actually is that you think is you. And if you can actually break through that conditioning, you get to see who you truly are at your essence before that thing happened to you.
Those of you that
Before
work
you
with
were
me,
told that thing.
is this not what I do all the time? This is not what I teach those of you that are watching that work with me and my clients. This is what I talk about all the time. The deconditioning of the nervous system, especially because when we come into the world, it's like we become these seekers of figuring out who we are. We seek the knowledge of who the fuck am I, right? And we're doing that as young kids. And we're walking around going, oh, mom says I'm this, so I'm this. Oh, the boyfriend said I'm this, so I'm this. Oh, blah, 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 right? Sex deconditions that so that you become none of that, right? Which is like, thank God.
Right, and so you can be in a space with someone where you're actually able to experience some type of an afflictive emotion that has been stored in our body, the issues in the tissues that one of my teachers always talks about. That when you're in a space where you can play, where you've both done the work, and sexuality can start to become
it's a playground.
A playground.
Yeah.
Those emotions can start. You can have a crying orgasm and not worry about him freaking out or her freaking out, but actually just that the honesty, of the experience. Crack isn't more addictive than a woman in her honesty in a sexual space. There just isn't.
Yeah.
Trust that's the thing that's going to draw him deeper, because there is nothing more exquisite. And I think we've been trained by porn and all these other things to sort of expect this kind of performative thing. So many women and men are stuck in this thing of, I need to look this way, it needs to be this way. And it can be really tough, because I think for a lot of us when we were growing up, we went into a sensitive space sexually, and our partner wasn't able to meet us there. Whether because of their own conditioning, their own age and inexperience, or what have you, or from their own bullshit that they projected onto us.
And fear.
And there's just no one talking about this stuff in our culture. Sex and death. Sex, death. It's not.
It's the same thing anyways.
Two sides of the same coin.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
But there's the alpha. I want to get back to the alpha dom being the alpha dom, because I think this would be a great place to land for our people. You know, that there's I'm just thinking of my clients that might be watching in, the paradigm of relationship that I see most often is a very powerful female spiritual entrepreneur. A man that loves her dearly, is very devoted to her. The polarity is lost.
Yep.
Right? And I know those of you that are my clients were like, fuck, how does she know? Like, I see you. She's good. I see you. Just to summarize you and stereotype you. But so...
Well, it's not...
What are we... Yeah.
It's a very common... This is the thing. It's a very common thing right now, particularly. It's an archetype in the world right now that we think it's just us. We think it was just our parents. But it's very, 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 very common, where you have this powerhouse female and this sort of devotional male, but where there's not a... It's not quite there.
There's no fuck energy. Where's the fuck energy?
Where's the fuck energy?
Right.
So, David Data, my teachers, talk about the sort of relationship of the future, where it's sort of, and we're seeing it because all of the number of women in med school, law school are literally skyrocketing, and the number of men is going down. So very soon, women are literally going to be supplanting men in the workforce in a lot of different jobs that were traditionally very male dominated. And so out there in this sort of alpha, go get it, doing shit in the world, women, this is awesome. Don't ever think, women, that that's not something that you can pursue. It's just a matter of being able to switch consciously, because you need to have that sentry out in the world. And any woman who spends time in New York City knows that you need to be on guard of who is staring at me, who is giving me shade, that's not a dude that I need in my sphere. And that's kind of your alpha. That's your warrior. You're there to protect you. But maybe suddenly you're standing next to somebody on the train platform and there's some energy there. And if you're always an alpha, you're not going to be able to
receive.
Step into an omega. And then, because if you're an alpha, his alpha isn't going to be able to find anywhere to penetrate energetically to meet you at your omega. So you could be standing next to your dream man or woman or whomever person on the side, and they don't even see you. Because you're not radiating your true your core energetic, or what you want in the polarity space.
I just want to add something on that. So he mentioned women out in the world, right? Women out in the world doing other shit, powerful women doing their shit. So there is a misconception in female-bodied individuals that we have to go into alpha in order to get shit done. And I would like to just implant in the viewer's energy that the get shit done thing gets to dissolve away. The way in which you live in queendom and abundance and ease and grace and build a fucking empire is through the complete opposite of that. And I've seen it now in my 2 businesses, like that there's a way in which we create from falling back into our femininity, and then shit just births. It shouldn't feel like a pushing. If it feels like a pushing, then you're not in the energy that's fully in alignment with your body, right?
Absolutely.
It feels like a pull. I want it to feel like a pull for you, so that it's like this nourishing, like, wow, I'm gonna give birth, right? And then we just wait, and then the birth happens. And then in that space, I could work all day long, and I don't have to switch. I don't have to shift. I can work all day long and then have a man over, and I'm still in my omega. I was in it all day long. And that doesn't mean I'm not creating, right? I'm doing a lot of doing stuff, but none of it feels like I am. And that's how I know that I'm in the flow, and I see a lot of women doing the opposite and getting majorly burned out. Their adrenals are dying, right? Their relationships are ending. So find the orgasm in your body, because that is the most powerful force, and it will create exactly what you're meant to create from inside of you. So I just had to make sure that was in for our ladies that are watching.
Absolutely, and ladies or
whoever's watching, in that, I
really want to invite you to explore the energetics of the queen, the queen archetype, because the difference between the queen, and I don't mean because of history, because so much of history has come through a masculine direction. You have a lot of queens in history that are very much like kings, because that's the only way they've been allowed to be. But when I speak about the queen energetic, it's very different. The king energetic is directional and dictatorial. Do this, go here, open that window. And that can be really sexy if we're in like, come here, turn around. If it's in a place in integrity, and it's a place that's connected to her experience, not just I want this, do this. But what the queen does, which is so fucking beautiful, is the queen empowers those around her to give her what she wants.
Exactly.
So let's maybe we'll just do a little exercise right now.
Okay.
So it's a little warm in here, and maybe Genevieve is a little hot, and there's a window right next to her, and she'd like that window to be open. Now she could go and open it herself. She's perfectly capable.
Totally capable. That. And this is not to say that I'm not capable.
Absolutely. It's never about that. It's never about that. If you need the damn window open and you don't want to play games and fuck this queen, open the damn window. Just open it. Or ask your man, hey, can you open the window, please?
Yeah.
So that's the way that she could communicate to me. She could say, Michael, will you open the window? If we're creating polarity, if I do what she says and I go and open the window, I've moved into Omega and she's an Alpha. There's nothing wrong with that.
No, but this happens all the time in these Alpha, Omega. This happens all the time when female, Alpha, female. Then the man becomes the Omega all of a sudden because they're devoted.
Absolutely.
And they're like, I'll do what you want.
Right. But then it becomes, what about the time where you don't want him to do what you want? You kind of want to feel his no.
You want to feel his no.
And as someone who's been searching his whole life for his no, oh man, I know that one very well.
Yeah.
And I'm very grateful to the women that have sort of excoriated me to the place where I'm at now, to be able to understand that, you know, sometimes they want to feel that boundary. They want to feel that alpha, that masculine sort of no. Yeah. So Genevieve could also ask me to open the window by saying something like, it's really hot in here.
I'm sweating a little bit.
Yeah.
Are you sweating?
And if I'm dense, and a lot of us are, because we're not, as men, we're just not used to this. And again, density is it's a masculine thing. It's very useful on a battlefield. Being insensitive, being able to take a blow and keep going, there's something beautiful in that. But when it's in communication, communication with women and children and animals, it's maybe not the best thing. So again, can you, as the masculine, can you develop both sides of that? Can you develop that strength, that sensitivity, that warrior, that savage quality that one of my teachers talks about? And can you also develop the sensitivity, the vulnerability, the saintliness, and then be able to play in between those two and learn, and by listening to her being a female, her being the world around you, the animals, the whole spectrum of form, if you want to really get into it. But what it feels like, and you can start to play with this with your partners or with people that are open to it, of like, really like, what would it be like to say, it's really hot in here? Because then you're empowering him in a way to be your hero. You're empowering his purpose to come out. And
we wanna honor him, right? The feminine desire is to honor our man. Like, it's actually, which, oh my God, I feel like all the women are gonna be like, what the fuck? But like, it really is. Like, like, and what's amazing is, I just wanna make a point, I don't have to say, it's so, like, I don't have to be sexy. I don't have to be like, so hot, like, oh my God, I'm sweating. It could also be like, it's fucking hot. Like, I could also do that. And he still gets to react to it, because it's all about just whatever's truth in my being. If I'm not like...
It's about making art. It's not about performing. If that's what your truth is in that moment, speak your truth.
Speak it. And then let's see how he takes it, right? It's a game. There's a playground and a lightness to it. So,
I want to plug my teachers again, Justin Patrick Pearson, London Angel Winters. They have an amazing book called The Awakened Woman's Guide to Everlasting Love. They talk about this extensively. And what they talk about are the three pillars they identify in this game. The first being presence, the second being polarity, and the third being devotion. So both of you have to show up with presence. Both of you have to have done your work to begin to be able to get into that play space that Genevieve was speaking about earlier, where you can show up and start to really be there. And then from there you move to the second pillar of that polarity, and you get to sort of play. And you know what, maybe Genevieve is going to be an alpha, so she is going to start to solidify her body, and she's going to start to deepen her breath deeper than mine, and actually start tracking where my breath is in my body, and start breathing me, and being the straightest spine in the room so that my spine can kind of go loose. And holding me in my space like you were holding a cup. Like holding space, like imagining her body, or I should say her imagining my body, as though you were holding a cup. So just enough contact around the body to keep it from dropping out of your hand, and not too much to where you're going to crush it or break it. But that's a really good way to consider holding space, like with your energy. Again, not needing them to change, not trying to get them to do anything. It's not about manipulation, and it's easy to slide into that. But if you're really just, you don't need them to do anything. You can just hold them like you would a cup or a rose or some beautiful object, and allow them to just be what they are. Then that person can just be what they are, and maybe what they are is sad. And I can go into that space, and I can start to move my body, and I can start to move sound, because he's not moving his body, because he's still, and I just hear his breath, her breath, as someone holding the alpha in this moment. And then I get to move into that space, and I get to explore Omega, and that's where the polarity game can go.
And what's really fun, just for some foreplay, is to bounce back and forth. Right? Because then you create this, like, where are we going? I don't know who's holding what. What the fuck's happening? And then
I had the privilege of watching you and Destin, Garrett, do that work together. And what a great guy too, and seeing the way you guys did that. But then from there, going to that third pole of devotion, where it literally is imbuing the other with the divine, with the divine quality, Shiva, Shakti, whatever your tradition looks like. But moving into a place of worship, of true devotional worship, devoting your life to.
And as my mentor Satyan Raja says, if we can see everyone else as a conscious being with choice, right? So that allows for the presence, that allows for the devotion. If I'm just being with you and thinking, wow, this is a conscious being with choice, all the time. Right? He's never not that. He's always that, and I'm always that too, and that's pretty much it. Feels really good. So, yeah, I don't know how long I've been talking. I feel like we could do this all day long.
We could.
I'm curious. Wow, I'm curious if any of you guys have questions, and if not, I feel like we should show them things.
Just show them things.
Just show them things.
Okay.
You can lead what you want to show them.
Okay.
And that way, and we can, this is like a teaching thing for you guys. You can do like maybe 5 minutes of showing them, 3 minutes, 5 minutes.
Sure.
And I want you guys watching, even if you're watching on the replay, type in what you're seeing, right? Like, what are you aware of? What's happening in your body? The feminine, if you're in a female body or you're playing with the Omega energy, what are you receiving from watching our experience? Like, what's coming up for you? What's true for you in that moment, right? Because shit comes up and we ignore it, and I want you to speak it. Okay. I don't know what you want to do.
Well, you said questions, and then you said practice. Do you want to do questions practice, or do you want to do practice questions?
No one's giving us questions, so
let's do
give
practice, then.
Give us questions while we practice, and then that way we can go back and scroll and read them. And also let us know if you want to workshop in New York City, because you should let us know, because we can make that happen. Okay.
We do have the power to do that.
It's easy. Poof.
Amazing. So let's move into a practice. So let's just.
He's so official. I'm just like, no, whatever. The polarity again. We move out of my alpha.
Aren't her giggles wonderful? That's the most wonderful giggles. Yeah, so let's just move into we'll just do a basic polarity practice.
Okay.
So you'll play the Omega, just because that's your home base, and I'll play Alpha, because that's more my home base. Okay. And we'll just drop into that. So what we'll do is we'll just face each other, and since you're playing Omega, you don't really have many rules.
I don't have anything.
Which is the fun part.
I do nothing.
Of playing Omega.
Yay, I do nothing.
And, well, I actually do nothing. You can do anything.
I can do whatever I want.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is this good? Are
This
you
is
good?
good. I'm good.
Okay, we're good.
Yeah. So we're gonna do eye contact, left eye to left eye, and I'm just gonna breathe, and you're just gonna allow. Your only goal is to feel whatever you're actually feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you have no experience with that.
No experience with feeling.
No gift or anything with any of that. So just letting energy move. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be invoking that mountain. I'm going to become very aware of my body and my structure. So I'm going to straighten my spine. I'm going to bring my shoulders back and down. I might even do like a slight tuck of the chin a little bit. And I'm going to really deepen my breath. I'm going to bring my breath down as deep into my abdomen as I can. And I'm going to be tracking her breath. So I'm going to be watching, while being in eye contact, my periphery is taking in the whole space. So again, if I'm in alpha, I'm in that sentry position. So it's not just about being tapped into my own body and my own breath, and not just about from there. These are the 3 pillars of the men's work that I teach. So the tapping into your own body, being present with your own breath, being present with your own situation, from there moving into her body, into her space, into where her breath is. But at the same time, I'm also tracking the entire space. So I can see anything and everything that's happening around her. I hear any sound in the back of the room. I am extending my awareness outward like a shield.
He's really good at that.
But it's like anything. You if you lose it, you come back. You come back to the beginning. Where am I? Where's my breath? Okay. Where's her? Oh God, she's having an energetic orgasm. I totally got distracted and lost her breath. Where's her breath? Come
that
back.
Might happen.
That might happen.
Get ready.
So we're just gonna see. So I'm gonna be deepening my breath. I'm gonna be tracking Genevieve's breath so that she can just not have to worry about anything. And let my spine be erect, to let my breath be deep, and just follow her and just be with whatever comes up. And we're just gonna spend a few minutes in that.
And you guys feed us by typing in what you're feeling and what's happening for you, and what, if anything, comes up. I want that the feminine likes to be fed that way. So thanks.
Yeah. Masculine too. So let's do it. It's not about me being a robot. It's not about me being a blank slate.
No, he's playing with me. He's totally playing with me.
The next level of this work, and we won't have time to necessarily get into it, but we would start to give each other calibrational feedback to start to feel into, in this moment, what's something she would need more of from me, to be able to drop in more deeper into trust. And if I'm sensitive enough, I can feel into that without her needing to say a freaking word.
He did it. I don't know if you guys are watching. He's been doing it. I'm curious what they can see. Oh, that's nice.
And just for the sake of time and demo, I'm going to start to very slowly move one of my hands. And I'm going to be using my hand as a wand, essentially, as a concentrative tool of my energy.
It's a cock.
It's a cock.
It's a cock. can feel I'm pretty sure he can feel my energy right now. I'm like, give me the cock, I want the hand, and he's purposefully waiting, right? This is like brilliance right now. Because my body is like, give me the hand. And I'm getting that excitement, which is what you want to see.
And then it becomes about art, because if, again, the brilliance and the gift of the feminine is that she's different in every moment. And for a lot of men or the masculine, we want to punch in the code and know that it works, and I do this, and then she has an orgasm, and I've done my work, and I can pat myself in the back, and then I can go to sleep. But that's not the case. And sometimes giving a woman exactly what she wants in the moment is the wrong thing.
Because then I lean in more. But he knows that about my energy too. He's picked up on me before. He just dropped me down into devotional layer.
You know, I was feeling her cough and where the energy was. And so my hand is naturally wanting to go up into her communication center here in her throat and just explore what's there. Maybe there's something that wants to be expressed. Something that...
My fears of persecution are coming up right now. Around like too sexual, Genevieve's too sexual, everyone's watching and I'm too sexual, and I should just be loving instead of wanting the cock energy, and it's flip-flopping between cock and love. And so there's the fear of
as though those two things were mutually exclusive.
Exactly. So the feminine's job is to just presence whatever the fuck it is. And be fully accepting of that. Okay.
So I just brought in a bit more of my savage, a bit more warrior.
And I grounded me.
And in a split second, that might become too much. Or maybe it's not quite enough.
It makes me want to lean, like I want to just like attack you.
There's an incredible vulnerability I see in Genevieve right now. The presence of tears waiting on the boundary, waiting for permission. And they don't need to come. And they can if they want.
I just feel so loved.
And again, it can be easy to slip into a performance or try to give someone what you think they want, or try to be what you think they want you to be. And I've been guilty of that for a large portion of my life. Yeah. So many of the women that I've spent time with will tell you about it. And if you start doing this practice, you might not feel anything. You might be like, I'm not bouncing around like Genevieve is, or I can't feel my dude, he's not doing anything, or as the alpha practicing partner, I don't feel anything. From there, my invitation is just to deepen the breath. Because we're all in the habit of not feeling. It's hard to be in this world and feel everything. But feeling is the language of the intuition. And getting in touch with those bodily sensations through practice, through permission, is the way we allow our intuitions to start speaking and start actually actually being what they're meant to be.
We just gave them so much. Guys, did we give you too much? Did we tease you enough? I'm floating. Can you talk? I'm gonna hold on to his arm.
It's important, alpha playing partner, after practice, not to just drop her.
No, please.
Just because of the places that she can go, and to be able to really craft time to start to, if you want to start to bring this in as a practice for you and your partner. In the Kama Sutra, they talk about having an actual room in your house dedicated specifically to lovemaking, so that the mind starts to become sort of trained, and lighting certain incenses, having certain lighting, having a practice around it, and making sure that you have time on the front end and particularly the back end, where you're not just rushing out the door going into work.
Because the feminine, like, I just want to lie in this all day long now. All day. I basically do, but he just tapped me back into truth there. And so I don't want him going anywhere for a long time. Right? It's the energy around it. Otherwise it feels too, I don't know. I don't have words anymore.
Yeah.
We should wrap up.
We should.
Okay.
And just doing things to help ground her.
Thanks.
Bring her back down.
How do you want to wrap up? Can you wrap it up?
I can.
Okay.
Thank you everyone for watching, for listening. Again, Genevieve and I are experimenting with ideas around particular workshops that we could bring to New York together. So we'd love to hear if there's any interest around that kind of thing.
Yeah.
We talked about a lot of topics. I know we did jump around a bit, so love to hear your questions, any interest in other topics. Again, my name is Mikaal Bates. I do men's work here in the city, as well as relationship coaching, life coaching, empowerment coaching. I work with men, women, and people of all genders, or associations, or what have you. I work with a group called Alpha Tribe, based in Los Angeles, in addition to my teachers, Justin Patrick Pierce and London Angel Winters, Dave Burns, Michael Holt, giving the guys a shout out in LA.
I love them.
They're the best of the best, no joke, and I'd love to connect you guys to anything. I do lead men's work here in the city, both online and also in person, so if you know anyone that's interested in that, I do one-on-one coaching and group workshops as well.
Yeah, and you all know who I am, but I don't have words. I'm Genevieve
Rudolph.
And this is what I do.
This is what she does. She's very good at it.
And if you want to do this, then come say hi. I do brain. I have one spot open for one-on-one coaching in July. After that, I'm booked until September. I tend to work with spiritual women, high, powerful spiritual women, and their incredibly devoted partners, or single women that are looking for a partner. And we play with this truth, with this nothingness. How can you use your body and your orgasm as a vehicle to find bliss? I don't want to say find bliss, to be bliss, because there's nothing to find, right? And so we stop the seeking through our sexuality. That's the work I play in. And I don't just work in New York. You can work with me. I have someone flying in from Denmark today. So all over the world.
Amazing. Amazing.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Genevieve.
How fun.
So much fun.
We love you guys. Questions, if you have questions that come up, if this brings stuff up for you, I feel like we're supposed to be doing more together, so we'll probably be doing more together. Just keep a lookout, and we'll see what pops, what creates. And share with your friends, share with your partners. Yeah. All right. We love you guys. Bye.